Good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are. Thank you for coming by today. This is Pete, the roaming prepper, and this is my Tuesday night talk show. I appreciate you all coming in, either if you're coming in tonight or if you happen to be checking it in the morning. I know I have a few folks who are following me actually in the UK, Germany, and Romania. For those of you in the EU and the UK, thank you. This Texan, this adopted Texan, does appreciate all of y'all, and thank you for coming by. And to all my other guests, thank you as well. It's been a fun ride doing this, and I'm glad I finally got out of work early enough to set up a live on a Tuesday, because that can be a challenge. There were a lot of guys canceled on Monday, some of the bigger channels, just because of work and life. So, we do get busy, but we thank you guys for your patience. So today I actually have some really cool stuff we can all cover, and I'm hoping we can, we'll start with a howdy and a sound check. So if you can hear me, hey, George Washington, good evening to you. Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me? Do I sound good? Too loud? Not too loud? I got this really neat gift from my daughter for Father's Day. I was playing with the YouTube channel, and she did not realize I had a channel and that it's been going on for a little while. So her gift to me was this handy dandy, like Rush Limbaugh kind of 1930s looking microphone. So I'm kind of excited about that. That's really cool. And hopefully you guys can hear me now, because audio was one of the problems I heard a lot of folks in my early videos talk about. I'm going to start. I got a few things. Awesome. Thank you much. So I'm 5x5. Let's go to the first topic of the evening. And this is something that actually it's in my career, and I've been an engineer operationally and in the business development side. We always try to start with something of real great importance, which is a safety topic or a safety moment. And I got a great one for y'all today, because this is important. So Texas has been in the triple digits, and I think there's a guardsman in Arizona who mentioned it was 125 there. So there's been crazy weather. California's in a drought. Nevada's in a drought. And then on the East Coast, they're getting clobbered with weird rain and flooding and power outages, but they're hot there too. Heat stroke and heat exhaustion. Many of you have probably seen this. I picked this up from Trauma Agency at Blogspot. Heat stroke, heat exhaustion, they're slightly different. Both are not good. Especially you look at heat exhaustion, that's usually the fainting, the dizziness, the excessive sweating. You just feel awful. You tend to get nauseous. But when you move into heat stroke, that's some bad stuff. Hey, Northern Girl, I'm glad you were able to make it tonight. Thank you so much for hopping in. Hey, good evening, or good evening, Caribbean House. Thank you. The heat stroke side is much worse. That's when you start getting that throbbing headache, and you'll notice people don't sweat at all. They just go clammy. That's not a good thing. Both have nausea and vomiting. And when they start going into heat stroke, the pulse gets really fast. Either way, that's not good. It's always smart. Take some time out. If you're working in a major type of heat, take a minute and take a break. Back out of that heat, cool off a bit. Now, important, if someone gets overwhelmed with the heat, don't like throw ice on them, because you could put them into shock. They say cool or cold water, or you pour something like this, like a bottle this was in my little mini fridge here. Put some cold water on a towel and put the towel on the person. Don't just drop ice on them. You could put them in shock, and that would just make things a lot worse. So that's kind of my kickoff topic here, because we've had some people go down with illness out here in Texas. most people can handle the heat out here. They adapt, but sometimes they don't. And here's another one for you. This one was sadly Grand Canyon. Like I said, Arizona, Nevada, Colorado, they're seeing crazy heat. It's beyond even what Texas is seeing. And a 53-year-old woman, not an old woman, apparently she was quite active. She went into the woods and she got sick. And yeah, George, that's a great point. If you're working in vicinity of something hot, machinery, trucks, heavy equipment, in your case, a charcoal kiln, and God, I remember that from my shop days. I mean, the temperatures in these kind of equipment is you've added 15, 20 degrees just being there. This is really dangerous heat. Hydrate. They recommend a 3-to-1 ratio, water to Gatorade. I've heard some say 2-to-1. It's kind of, judgment call, but make sure you hydrate and you get some electrolytes and even some food. Take some breaks, get a little bit of like granola bars or a sandwich or something, and get some vitamins. You'll deplete yourself in this heat. This was unfortunate, probably not necessary. She was on I'm not familiar with that part of the park. She was the Tonto Trail near Monument Creek in the Grand Canyon National Park. And she got disoriented and while hiking down the trail, and she went unconscious. And keep in mind, if you're in a remote location, somebody's going to have to get in there to get you and then gurney you out if they can't get a helicopter to you. Either way, helicopter or on foot, it's going to be half an hour before someone can physically get to you and get you out. Same thing goes for extreme cold. Those of you who live in Canada or in Alaska, I went to school right on the border with Canada, so I know those lake effect snows, those big northern winds. You get caught in weather will kill, and that's a good point. In an SHTF, extreme weather will probably kill a large number of people if the grid collapses. So understand the area you live in and the areas you frequent, and try to be prepared for that, because that's one less thing you have to worry about if things go sideways. So, and like George Washington pointed out, he drinks about roughly 4 gallons of water, and you don't have to pee, because it just comes right out of you. So yeah, fruits, oranges, grapes, watermelon, the sports drinks, but the sports drinks have a lot of sugar. So you have to keep in mind, if you have issues with blood sugar, that's a dangerous way to go. But, for sure, these are things that, you want to be aware of. You don't want to be in a situation where you or someone you're with goes down and it could have been avoided. This is really unfortunate what happened to this lady. Again, 53, maybe to teenagers, that's all, but most adults understand that, 40s, 50s, you're still in the prime part of your life. Shouldn't have happened. It was just real unfortunate. So, be careful with that stuff. So, okay, safety topic over. Let's talk about other things that are freaking everyone out. I've heard it on a lot of channels. I've even spoken about it. Inflation. What's the deal? Where's the market going? So let's take a peek at that real quick. Hold on just a second, and I will pull that up. So this is investing.com, and it says, inflation, broken supply chains make food price pricier despite commodity corrections. So even though the manufacturers are trying to move things around to keep prices reasonable, the supply chain is screwed up. It took so many hits over the last year between the Rona and the Suez and a bunch of other stuff. And it just caused, wet a hanky, yeah, Northern Girl, wet a hanky and put it around the neck to cool yourself down. But the inflation stuff, You got a lot of governments putting out a lot of money, trying to get things going. They're trying to stimulate the economy, but the supply chain is still having issues, right? The Suez threw us backwards. We've had various hacks too, not just, well, for instance, the pipeline hack. Fuel prices suddenly shoot up because you have a pipeline hack. And now that fuel goes up, everything down the food chain, so to say, everything down the supply chain will start getting much more expensive. And this stuff can be a pain in the butt. One of the financiers, or not this knucklehead, but Warren Buffett. I like watching Buffett because he has no filter. Yes, Northern Girl. So, are you guys seeing out there? Are you guys seeing wood shortages or wood price spikes? Because here in Texas, and Texas is known for having a robust housing market. And normally, once you put your earnest money down and you put your deposit, you really can't back out of a contract unless they totally screw up the house. And there are builders who are like, yeah, you can get out of it. We won't penalize you, because the price of the goods, the wood, the sheetrock, whatever, have gone up so fast that the house that the builder quoted, say $200,000, I'm just throwing a number out there, is now costing the builder $270,000. So technically speaking, you can buy the house at the agreed price, wait a year and flip it and probably make a profit. Yeah, Northern Girls, $80 for a sheet of plywood. Now we're going into hurricane season. Down in the Gulf Coast, there have already been 2 named storms, or a named storm in a tropical system that flooded parts of Louisiana. And I know that because my brother lives there in the New Orleans area. And he called me the other day, so you're freaking flooding everywhere. I'm like, well, yeah, because you live in the bayou, that it floods. But he said there was stuff flooding that had never flooded. It's, all this kind of stuff. It's hurting the supply chain. The weather's hurting the supply chain. And even Warren Buffett is saying his Berkshire Hathaway, his firm, is seeing very substantial inflation and raising prices. Now the Gulf Coast is going to get hit with these storms. There's going to be a spike in plywood. If homes get torn up and flooded, which is where I was going, there are going to be spikes in buying wood, buying sheetrock. I remember when we went into some neighborhoods post-deployment in Hurricane Harvey, we went back in uniform to kind of follow up on some of the houses. And they had cut, one guy showed me, he opened the door and he cut the sheetrock from about chest high down. And it was 6 months later, he said, we can't get material. And that was just everything normal, just a bad hurricane. Now everything screwed up and the supply chain screwed up, and we get a hurricane like that, and that's going to be ugly. So it's important to kind of pay attention to these prices. You can't really miss them. Somebody said they normally do their monthly Costco run, and it runs them $400. And their last Costco run basically ran them it went up 30% easy for that family. And that was here in Texas, where we don't get taxed on groceries. I can only imagine in states where you pay sales tax on a grocery, what that's going to be like. And so they're not selling any of that lumber. I wonder if that's a part of that supply chain issue. They can't get enough truck drivers. So some members of my family work in the fuel side. So like, gas stations, refineries, trucking, and they can't find. And Caribbean houses, what is so pricey here in Florida? The houses are overpriced. Yeah. And if you want to make a repair to a house, especially if you're in hurricane country, when everyone's trying to buy that wood, it's going to be tough. Usually before storms, Lowe's and Home Depot, the bigger stores, they try and order extra wood and leave it in the warehouses just outside the flood zone. But I'm wondering if they're going to even be able to do it. I'm wondering if some of this disconnect, where George is saying they're stacking lumber for sale, but it's not moving. And then Northern Girl and Caribbean House are saying, yeah, it's really expensive. I bet that's a logistics issue. It's supply chain. They can't get the product from A to B for some reason. There has been a major shortage of drivers, qualified drivers for fuels, for hazmat materials, like chemicals or even explosives, because we do use quite a bit of that in industry. Possibly, Northern Girl. I think I'm broadcasting on only YouTube right now. I tried to broadcast on another channel, and the program kind of went, yeah, you're not doing that tonight. So I said, okay, I won't do that tonight. But the this logistics issue, especially what you guys are kind of pointing out, that you have supply and there's demand and prices going up, but you can't get from A to B. There's something going on. And actually that, like I pointed out here in this article, the supply chain, supply chain is broken. So not just food, but having issues. So prices of coca, prices, that's not telling me what I wanted it to. But even Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, they're not getting any cheaper because it's just they can't get it from A to B. So even if their cost is coming down, we're not seeing it in the open market. So this is going to be an ongoing problem. This is a good reason to kind of leverage your purchasing power. So so if you have if you find yourself with a large purchase that you can split with other people, you may want to start looking for those avenues, especially if you have a ranch or farm or homestead and you have to buy whatever product in bulk. It's cheaper for the shipper and provider if the order's bigger, right? So if you can split your order with someone else and kind of reduce the cost to you and make it more economic for the people shipping and trucking, that may be a route to take. So if you have mutual assistance groups or teams or whatever you call the folks you in your circle, this may be a great opportunity to kind of leverage that buying power. And I talk about it in the series I did about the 5 forces of business. The power of the buyers can be quite substantial. If a bunch of people boycott a store, you can very quickly leverage that store to do whatever you need. Obviously, we've had too much cancel culture, so I'm not endorsing that. But I'm just saying, if you have 5 or 6 people who want to make a bulk purchase of flour, you can probably go to a restaurant or go to a Sam's or Costco and tell the manager, look, we want to buy X amount of flour just for us. Can we put a special order and bulk order? You might save yourself a lot of money doing that. It's something I've actually done. I was doing actually with ammo. We had a group of guys who we were all competitive shooters of one type or another. And one guy would say, hey, I found something. I found Pew. Do you want me to buy a box or a case? So everyone Venmo'd that guy cash, and then he got the box. And since he was buying a bigger box, it was less per round. And then he went home, and then we met up later, and he just divvied up like pirates, and it worked really well. So keep in mind that's a really good way to do that. So what happens next, right? So you got the inflation concerns, and of course, the next thing that happens turns out to be the food prices, right? You get inflation, you get the fuel prices going up, and then it starts going into it. And I just covered this article, but let's look at this one. So this is from VOA, and this is kind of an independent little news agency, if you will. I don't know what to call them. And they have some really neat articles that pop up from time to time. And I thought this was one of them. So U.S. food banks, and this was very recent, shoot, this was today actually. U.S. food banks fear rising prices will affect the mission to feed the needy. So here you're going to start seeing that inflation that Warren Buffett talks about, the inflation that you're seeing in the stores with the wood prices, the broken supply chain. Now it's going to start affecting the ability of food banks to distribute to the poor or to the needy. And there are a lot of needy right now, especially post-Rona. A lot of folks are still trying to find work, and they're struggling. A lot of them are struggling. Some people don't want to work because they want the free money, but there are a lot who are trying to find work because they just can't make a living with these stimulus checks that come in. It's really $600. You got a family of 4 or 5. It's not much. So these guys were saying, VOA was saying, hold on, my mouse won't play nicely. There we go. So VOA was saying a food pantry in Fairfax, Virginia serves as a lifeline for a family with a woman with her 3 children. They helped me fill some of the holes in my food budget. My sister worked with the food bank on the East Coast, and it was the same thing. They kind of just fill gaps for families who are going through a hard time. But this is going to be a problem, because if the food banks, which are large entities, are having issues, it's going to filter down to the individuals as well. You may, if you're growing or making your own food, if you have a farm or a homestead, or you can harvest from nature, you're kind of going to be able to buffer that a bit, right? Because you're not needing from the supply chain. You've found another alternative. But this is concerning, especially food banks as big as the ones in New Jersey, as in Virginia, where they have these massive footprints, and they're not getting donations because people just can't afford it. And when they buy food, it's hurting the budget. So I know Ice Age Farmer and I believe the Angry Prepper have both touched on this. There's a lot of things working against the food supply. So you'll hear a lot of preppers say, hey, stack it to the rafters. It's because they see what's coming. It's not going to get better before it gets a little worse. Here's another one, actually. Kraft Heinz, right? Kraft Heinz. This is a big multi-billion-dollar company. Their CEO is very concerned about inflation surges. The company is studying whether to raise prices. So you think about that. The food and beverage giant has seen inflation primarily in raw materials, including labor and logistics. This goes back to people not coming back to work, and a lack of truckers. It's all intertwined. And I should have put up a schematic of a supply chain for a company, because it's all these little things that just feed into the final product. And when one of them goes awry, it absolutely devastates the supply chain for that company. But what we're seeing is multiple companies, multiple entities are having these issues. There's still a container ship backlog in California. They're trying to get them through. I'm pretty sure we're still suffering some kind of backlog from whatever the hell happened in the Suez Canal, where some captain took a left turn in the middle of the canal. But point being, we're going to continue to see this. So if you can grow your own, do it. That's a great way to go about it. It says, we haven't seen increased prices to consumers. We do not know if we'll have to increase prices or not yet. We are studying and building scenarios on that. We're very concerned, but acting to mitigate the possibility of increasing pricing through efficiencies. So yeah, Northern Girl, it's all interconnected. And what you can do, again, I learned a lot from the Guard and the FEMA stuff, but I learned a lot from business. And if you look at these companies, and that's why I've put up Berkshire Hathaway and Kraft Heinz, because some of these companies are the ultimate preppers, right? A lot of these companies, I'll tell you right now, even have continuity of leadership plans, kind of like, the designated survivor for the president, where, if the president dies or he gets sick, then the vice president, then Speaker of the House, then President of the Senate, and so on and so forth. These companies have the same plan, these big Fortune 500 companies. So they're like the ultimate, hey, D9, it's good to see you. Hey, don't worry, we're all working right now. It's crazy. But we're all seeing these companies have all these tentacles and people who just study this stuff. Whereas we basically, you have YouTube and the viewers and all of us kind of inform each other as our own little community. They pay people big bucks to study this stuff. And when you see Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, Heinz, the food banks, these big entities all looking at the same thing, then it's going to drop down on us as well. At some point, we're going to wind up struggling with these prices. But we can learn from these guys and girls. We can learn from these people. And here's a great one. This is QSR, again, another little fringe magazine that I run into every now and then. The role of risk mitigation in the food supply chain. With a plan in place, action can be taken quickly. Now, what he does, he just kind of goes over, or she goes over the consumer demand, and she just kind of summarizes what we've been chatting about right now. But you can use this on your own. So again, the power suppliers, if the supplier's price is too high for you personally, start looking at alternatives. If you can't grow your own, see if there's another source. Can you do without the product? Now, there's some things you can't do without, right? You need water. But if you really like, brand X coffee, and brand X coffee is coming from overseas and got expensive, you may have to go get generic W coffee and live with that. But that's your go-to. That has become your mitigation plan personally to save some money to deal with this inflation and these inflationary effects. If you have a property to grow on, great. Heck, if you're in an apartment, get those goofy little grow boxes and the tray that you get at Lowe's, put it on your patio. Most apartments have like a little patio down here. And plant something, plant jalapenos or cilantro or something that you would use, and take that out of the supply chain. Now you supply yourself. I actually use that Aero Garden, which I'll be reviewing another day. And I got these two beautiful basil plants out of it. And then the basil plants killed the dill. So, oh well, no dill plant. But they're about this big now. I have them in their own pots. I'm about to pull the parsley out and put that in its own pot, because now it's about to take over, and the parsley killed another plant. So I gotta do a little bit better. I'm still learning about this whole gardening thing, but the hydroponic Aero Garden was a great way to kick off the plants and get them suitable for transplanting into a dirt pot. And I actually have them on a windowsill inside the house. So if I need basil, I actually just trim a little off the plant and wash the leaves, and here it goes. But you can do this if you have a subdivision. Victory Garden, baby. They did it in the 40s. If we have to, we can do it again. So if you can do it without getting written up by an HOA or getting a bunch of rabbits in your yard, definitely go that route. This is what companies are doing, right? They're looking for alternatives. Or in some cases, they're just doing away with products because it's not economic. They're having to raise the price so high that the market won't support it. The customers just won't buy whatever it is, that widget. So they're just stop producing widget. It's just not an economic thing. You can do the same. Study what these business guys do, because you think about it, Berkshire Hathaway, the Chevrons, the Halliburtons, the AT&Ts, the Boeings, these guys have been around for 80 years, some of them 100, 120 years. Companies don't survive. And some of them went through the Great Depression. They went through World War II, the Cold War, 9/11, and they're still here. So learn some lessons from these guys, and they post everything. SEC puts all their information out if they're publicly traded. Take some homework, but you start learning these tricks, and it's really amazing to see what these folks can do. Speaking of the Exxons and the all the other fun is fuel prices. I've been kind of, if you guys follow me on Instagram, you're probably seeing I'll put fuel check time and I'll randomly put like this is diesel 87 and 91 and 93 octane in my area. Lately, we're in the middle of Texas oil and gas country and solar and all the other crap we have out here. And you can't find 93 octane. You can find some in Houston, but you're paying a lot. It's more than diesel, more than 87. The refineries still haven't caught up from the freeze out here. That's no joke, y'all. And if we start getting hit with hurricanes, you're going to watch this go worse. So, and this one surprised me because I wasn't expecting to see this yet. Here comes $100 oil, Bank of America strategist. Okay, so the last time we were at $100 oil was 08, 09, right around the real estate market crash. And then we got hit by Hurricane Ike and the other Hurricane Rita or whatever. They kind of tore up some refineries. When the oil and gas price goes to $100, it's going to get expensive. Hey, Northern Girl, thank you so much. Best of luck with the Avon biz. And, oh, you sold your dad's painting. Thanks. We'll catch you later, hon. So, yeah, fuel prices, they're expecting to go up. Now, oil topped $70 for the first time in years today. And it's a couple of things. The Biden administration restricted drilling on federal land. So all the companies said, okay, that's fine. So they're moving rigs to private and public, other lands, other areas. But that took time, right? So as those rigs and all that equipment kind of move over, they're not producing and distributing the oil. So you're going to see those prices kind of go up. But there's also been limitations, the weather, plus demand is surging. So right now, American Airlines, I saw this morning, American Airlines and United have both reported that they don't have enough crews, from pilots to stewards and stewardesses, to man the aircraft for the demand. So now they're rescheduling people, which is really screwing folks up. They had one lady was flying from from Chicago to Florida to go to Disney World. And now they said, oh, that flight's canceled because we couldn't staff it. So you have to fly to New York and then go to Florida. And so instead of a 6-hour direct flight, she had like 12 hours with a layover, and it's awful. Good night, Northern Girl. Take care and be safe out there. So everything's going up, but this is going to hurt. Now, keep in mind, a lot of people mix natural gas with gasoline because we use both the word gas kind of for both. So natural gas or methane is a completely separate entity. When you produce an oil well, you get oil, you get a bunch of condensates and distillates, and then you get methane, you get natural gas. So natural gas is kind of what you're seeing in your stove when you turn it on. But butane, propane, all these other like diesel derivatives actually come from the oil and condensate side, the liquids sides. And I'm sure there's an oil and gas guy out there going, no, you missed something. I probably did, but you guys get the picture. So this will affect oil, gas, diesel, jet fuel, the whole 9 yards. So we have a surging demand and we're not producing anywhere near as much. And then we have a backlog of shipping. So we're, again, that triple whammy effect where it's just getting difficult. Now, there's really not much you can do to battle gas prices going up. You could get a more efficient car, or you can, what I like to do is keep my tank topped off, not just because I believe in prepping and, there was an emergency, I got a full tank, but it's a little easier to take if your tank fills up with $40 and you fill it when you're a quarter tank down, it's a little easier to take a $10 hit once a week than to take a 40, 50, or if you have a pickup truck, 70, 80, one of these big SUVs, take an $80 hit at once. if you can split it up 20, 20, 20, and don't run the tank down as much. Also, plan out your trips, right? Again, a lot of my upcoming videos are going to be about travel. Plan out your trips. If you're going to fly somewhere, fuel up your car. If you get a rental, fuel up the car in town and then go to the airport, right? Don't fuel it up at the airport because you're going to pay like 40% more. There are little things you can do. Now, if you have a facility to store gas and oil, hey, great, more power to you. But most of us don't. So try to mitigate those pains. Actually, we have a couple of different vehicles. So, if we need a 4x4, like because we're going to a snowy area, I'll take my truck. If we're going to do a family trip, we'll take the SUV, and the SUV is actually super efficient. It's a big expedition and it gets great mileage, surprisingly. Make sure your tires are in good shape. They're inflated. Your car oil changes are done. Your vehicle's in good shape. The better shape your car is, the less fuel it's going to use, the more efficient it is. And that's your way of kind of buffering these hits. Again, a lot of prepping, I'm starting to realize as I talk more about it, and I've done it for years, but I never really paid attention to it. A lot of it is the economics of prepping, and I probably should do a video on that. When you go to the store, look for those sales. That way you're not driving to the store as much. You can kind of stock up when you see those big sales. So fuel price looks like it's going to go up. So this is the EIA, and this is the Fed's gas, oil, the gas, retail gasoline and diesel prices. So, and this is, I think, a running average. So right now, the average for gas is 276, which is about right for my area, with mid-grade at 3 and premium at 330. They don't have diesel here. But that's EIA.gov. So if you guys, also, this also gives you analysis and projections for East Coast fuel transportation. There's a bunch of good information here as to where fuel's being used, where it's coming from. So if you may not live in hurricane country, but if you know the coast is going to get whacked with a hurricane and it's going to go over those refineries, fill up your tank now, because you may get hit later. About a week after the storm hit, clobbers everyone on the coast, you're going to get clobbered with a big gas price hike. So that's another way to kind of mitigate, take away the pain from those. I know a lot of guys have a pickup truck or an SUV, and then they have a nub. Like they picked up, I don't know, a Mustang or a little widget car. One guy has a smart car and he's a big dude, which is just funny. And sometimes like, how'd you get in there, man? But have that little car for grocery shopping, commuting, kind of the BS things, driving to and from, and then use the big vehicle for something else. So again, it's looking like fuel prices are going to go up. All the fuel stock prices are starting to rise. The energy companies starting to go up. That's probably investors doing their analysis and going, yeah, we're going to get tight on supply here. We got more demand and less product being produced. Plus, you have that instability in the Middle East. There's still a lot going on there. There's going to be an effect there. So we call them rig. That's right, rig car. Yeah, that's exactly what it is, D9. It's the rig car. It's you seen the Roughnecks. If you know the rigs, because you're from Texas, the Roughnecks will drive with this ugly vehicle. It shouldn't even be running. But then you run into him at like Walmart, and he's got the nice pickup or a little Jeep, and it's really classy. You're like, man, that's not what you drive to work. Yeah, it's the caca car basically. But if you can swing that, that's great. And by the way, if you're looking to sell a used car, now's a good time. Because of the chip shortage, they cannot keep up with the production. So, and then people, because a lot of people got laid off, they stayed with the car they had. So not only can they not produce new ones, but people are sitting on the old ones because they're like, I don't want to buy a new car because I could lose my job, right? You don't want to buy a new car and then get laid off. So people sat on the old junkers. And now the trade-in lots, CarMax. My daughter had the ugliest box. It was just this box. It was her go-to-work car. And we blue booked it, and it was like $2,000. Whatever. She got $5,000 for it. They were that desperate, and it needed brakes. So, yeah, vehicles, used cars are going up. So if you're gonna sell one, now's a good time. So you got a junker in the garage, get it working just enough to drive it to the trade-in place and trade it in, because you'll probably make what you owe on it, if you owe anything, and probably a little more. So I'm actually fixing up the old Mustang because my dingbat, one of my dingbats, backed it into his buddy's pickup truck because he was not paying attention years ago, but now I'm fixing it up. So it's a nice 450 Mustang, so we're going to fix it up. But yeah, it's been a lot of pricing pressure. And this is something, if you guys follow me a lot, you're going to notice I talk about supply chains, the power of buyers, the power of suppliers, because this is stuff businesses figured out and they've quantified and they study. I mean, it's a whole course. If you do your business degree or an MBA, it's a whole course about the effect of these things on a business and how you can fight it. We can use that as individuals. D9, for instance, is in Texas. So, if I went and I sent a message to him and a few other folks and said, hey, I just found discount, pew for, a discounted price, who wants in? And 7 or 8 of us jump in and split it 8 ways. We all save some money because we're getting the discounted price for the bulk purchase. And like I said earlier in the video, some of y'all may have missed it. We're a group of guys. We like to clay shoot. A few of us do 3-gun every now and then. And one guy texted everyone and said, dude, I found 9mm. The box is X, but the case is Y. Who's in? And we all we started Venmoing and he bought it. And then we met him at Whataburger, and a bunch of us were divvying up goodies. I actually found 9mm for a really good price out here, just a generic. And I stuck it in a box and sent it to someone in Houston because I found it for $20 for 50, which is high, but not bad considering the current market. And the guy in Houston, a friend of the family, was finding it for 50. It was cheaper for me to buy 4 boxes and pay the shipping than for him to buy 2. So talk to each other, reach out to your family and friends, because in some cases, it's actually cheaper for someone else to buy something, stick it in a box and send it to you than for you to search your area, because your area may have a shortage just because of where it's located. That's going to hurt your pricing. So learn from these business folks, guys. Watch the articles, Yahoo Finance, Fidelity, Edward Jones, Bloomberg. You could say what you want about Bloomberg as a mayor, but he's a business guy, and that he was always good at. To see for an old Tacoma, 2000 for 16,000. Yow. Yeah, your mag group too. 16,000. Why do those that's the little pickup truck, isn't it? The Tacoma. Why do those things so damn expensive? I've looked at them new or used. It's cheaper to buy an F-150. I don't understand. But so 762 by 39, it's super cheap because it's all steel. It's basically caca rounds, but if you need them, they work. And we couldn't find 76239 here. And I was going through my garage and I was trying to organize, and I had an ammo avalanche, right? Because I had set up for some clay shoots and some tournaments, and then I got transferred across Texas, and then the Rona hit. And I started pulling out ammo to try and sort all the crap I had in that corner of the garage, and everything came down, and I found an ammo can full of 76239 and then a box of 5.56. I was so happy. And then I looked at the price that I paid, 2 years ago, and it pissed me off, but it is what it is. Yeah, the new ones are so freaking expensive. D9, if you have a rig car you want to get rid of and you don't need it, now might be a good time. What I would do, Kelly Blue Book it, and then go to like CarMax and get the quote. Don't tell them you want to trade in or anything. Just say, I just want a quote to sell this. Then do one dealership, like go to Ford or Chevy or something, and then kind of see where the best deal is. If you're in a smaller town, they know, like, if you have a 3-4 hour drive to the nearest big city, they're going to probably stick it to you more because they know most people don't want to drive 3 hours just to see if they can get an offer. But if you're like in Dallas or near Dallas, Houston, Austin, or any big cities, Chicago, New York, you can probably get leverage there. Jackpot. The lowest that I found, 9mm, $42 for Ooch. Caribbean House. That wasn't hollow points, was it? It was just round nose bullets. Hey, D9, did they discontinue the FJs? I swear I heard they discontinued them, but I keep seeing them out there. If they did discontinue them, they never should have, because those were awesome. I would buy one now if I could, just because they look cool. And the fact that they're 4-wheel drive is just bonus. But, oh, by the way, drink of the day was Maker's Mark with a big round ice cube. But cheers. But it still tastes good. In any case, yeah, if you gotta do that, guys, remember the finances are one of the things that's gonna hurt preppers the most, because even if you know what you're doing and you know where to get stuff, if the prices go up, you're gonna get hurt. Oh, Full Metal Jacket, God bless. So yeah, in Texas was in my part, out in West Texas, it was $20-ish, $21, and it was the white box, like the Winchester white box. But in Houston, they couldn't find it, and when they did find it, it was like $50. It was just silly, $60. So yeah, no, and George Washington, yeah, the Toyotas, the Nissans. Toyotas are really modular. The Jeeps, Toyotas, F-150s, they've been around so long that there's a lot of aftermarket stuff. And that's another way to save money, guys, is instead of buying the new vehicle, upgrade the one you have to be fit for purpose, whatever your purpose is. Especially if you've already paid it off, that's an asset now. So I did try them. They were high. Academy was low and Alley was low, surprisingly. Or lower. But there was one guy out toward Pecos that he had a store, it was like some sporting goods store, and he had a whole room full of ammo. He would buy it from people, but his prices were just stupid. Like, I went in there, I was like, yeah, no, I don't need stuff that bad. But again, you want to save money on shooting. While we're on that subject, get snap caps. Make sure you clear your weapon correctly, of course. Get snap caps, and you can practice in the house. Do your draw, pull your trigger, do it double action, single action, depending on the weapon you have. And there's no reason you can't. Now, obviously, it's not a real bullet. It's not recoil, but you can at least get that muscle memory, that mental training going. And you can do it in the house or do it in the backyard. Don't freak out your neighbors unless you don't care about your neighbors, which is cool too. We had a 2004 and stepdaughter had an accident and total loss. Oh, that's a bummer. Yeah, I hope she's okay. She didn't get hurt or anything. Although I'm sure she got her channel changed just going through a major accident. That'll scare the heck out of anybody. Yeah, if you can upgrade your vehicles, do it. Maintain them, hold on to them a little longer, because stuff's not stable. And again, the prices are going to be what hurts preppers. And even if it doesn't hurt you, let's say you can manage it and you've got it under control, it's going to hurt other people. And other people will start doing dumb things. Okay, remember, all of us in the preparedness community often say, the zombies are really not like raw monsters. It's the public, the people flipping out and doing dumb things to us. So, you know, keep that in mind, that these pricing pressures won't just affect you. And I have not seen anything, and I didn't look probably as hard as I should have on the evictions and the foreclosures. I do know there's some big investment companies buying up foreclosed houses right now. So folks like you and I can't buy them because we're getting outbid by banks who are coming in with cash, then turning them into rentals. And then I'm hearing that some of the rentals are then saying, well, if you can rent from us, but you can't have a firearm here. And the laser bullet's a good idea too. So yeah, I'm glad to hear she's okay, Caribbean House, because I mean that's one of those phone calls to stop a parent's heart. Is because they're already freaked out, so they're either really loud or they're in tears, and they say I had an accident, and like all the lights in your head turn on at once. Iridium body panels for VR. I don't know. That's a good question. But yeah, it's guys, it's going to be one of those cases where the prices are going to not just affect the preppers, it's going to affect the public, and then they're going to fight over toilet paper. Okay, that's what we'll deal with. So we can't control stupid, and we can't control the market. So what we have to do is be defensive in our finances and leverage that buying power. If you have a mag or team, guard mates, like there's a bunch of military guys in the oil field, and I run into them. It's like, hey, we talk to each other. Dude, do you need, I found 308, I found this, I found that. Every day I get a text from someone found something. And if two guys are game, Venmo, baby, and just bling, or they meet up later and, I don't know, exchange bourbon for bullets, whatever exchanges go on. But try to leverage your power as a buyer, and if you can multiply. That's correct, E9. So Airbnb, if you follow Taylor Thorne, she's a young lady, she's a competitive shooter, and she's traveling the country now doing tournaments. She's this little thing. Her AR is about 2/3 of her height, and she got kicked out of an Airbnb because a neighbor said people are bringing guns into the house, and the Airbnb owner or Airbnb, I think it was Airbnb, said, we're canceling, you can't do that. But some of these companies are buying, and now they're a rental company. Now the state of Texas has passed a law that if you're a lawful firearm owner, the rental property cannot deny you or kick you out because you have a firearm. But they can hassle you. But that's just us. That doesn't mean another state. Oklahoma's a red state, so nobody's going to do that. But other states, they may start kicking people out. And it's kind of BS. You're absolutely right, because it's your personal property. So, and obviously, if you're being an idiot, you're just going to track the law. But from what I'm hearing, this isn't the case. It's just they're just saying in your lease you cannot do that. And it's bogus. So that's going to eventually get challenged in court, and it probably won't do well for the rental company in the court. But people sneak cats and dogs in all the time. I promise you, I can sneak firearms into my own apartment if I need to. But it's not fair, right? You shouldn't have to worry about that. But in any case, going to those financial things, fixing up the home instead of buying the new one, expanding your property, fixing up your vehicle, what you have now. Try to buffer and keep. What companies do in a bad market is they sell off assets and they sit on cash, and they don't take a lot of loans. They don't leverage. And they do that by design. Yeah, that's right, George Washington. We passed the law recently. And by the way, for those of you who live in Texas or may live in Texas, I called DPS this last week, and I said, okay, so there's going to be right to carry in the state, but what about, the roaming prepper? I drive around, I go to other states, and they have reciprocity. And the officer I spoke to, the DPS sergeant, she told me, she said, we will continue to issue the card. You do have to take the class. You have to do the class, the cert. It's basically what we've been doing up until recently. And they will issue a card, and that card validates to the other states that Texas has certified you to go over there and not be an idiot. So even though you can carry within the state now, or as of September, October, whenever the law takes effect, you can still get the card, the license. And that way, if you travel, because, I'll go, I have family in Louisiana, I have friends in Oklahoma, we have people we know in Arizona, New Mexico. I could wind up anywhere in the Southwest. I have the card, I have the reciprocity, I'm legit. I just have to obey the local laws. So yeah, if you can get a physical permit from your state, I encourage you to do it, because not all states play nicely, and having that document, if you cross state lines, even if it's by accident, you have that documentation. If there's a reciprocity in place, you've protected yourself. So that might be a good little chunk of change to spend on, is to make sure you don't get hassled. I go visit my brother in Louisiana and I get pulled over and get a fine, because that would kind of suck. So New Jersey, you cannot carry on. So can you get a carry permit in Jersey, or you can't have a handgun at all? I know New York City is like impossible. But these are things you guys can do to kind of mitigate the cost of stuff. People need to take a class regardless if they have constitutional carry. I agree with you. My biggest fear isn't people's right to carry, it's incompetence. I see stupid on the shooting range all the time. And, I had to take the class, and now I've had my permit since like 96. I was about to get grandfathered in. Hey, Peyton, I'm glad you made it. Thanks for joining us. But when you're going through the handgun class, at least the way it was here in Texas, it's 4 or 6 hours when I first took it. And they go over the law, they go over de-escalation, they go over a bunch of different stuff that's good for me to know. Because if I misuse the firearm, in Texas, you're liable whether you understood the law or not. But I really enjoyed having a Q&A with an instructor and, 8 or 9 other people sit next to me. Just have that conversation. So yeah, I would be thrilled if they made it, you can carry, but you gotta print out the certificate. I don't know. And then it becomes licensing and people get upset. But I think a competency thing, like the hunter's permit, how you had to take the hunter safety class and you could buy 5 million guns. Nobody cared. But if you went hunting, you had that said you're not a complete idiot. Somebody told you what the rules were. I'm only retired police. Wow. So, wow, that sucks. That's a tough one. I feel weird. I went to Vegas with a wife, and obviously I didn't want to fly and go to another state. I think my permit's good in Nevada, but I'm not going to fly. I'm in freaking Vegas. So I took that out of my EDC and I kind of modified. I actually did a video on a TSA compliant EDC. And, I went through security and I didn't get hassled, and I showed up there and I felt weird. I was like, I feel like something's missing on my clothing, and I didn't have my holster is what it was. I was driving around before. I actually have my holster. It's just my pistola is over there on my dump tray. But yeah, I've had people actually, George Washington, I had people come to me and ask me, hey, what should I buy? Because now with this new rule, I've had a lot of younger folks, my kids' friends, because my children are young adults, their friends have come to me and been like, hey, what should I do? And I'll talk to them about what's your experience, what's your competence, what's the purpose of the firearm. Feral hogs, they are prolific. They've been prolific. And actually, I'll touch on that in a second, but I've been telling these younger folks, go take a class, even if you go to the shooting range and do the $30, this is how you don't shoot yourself course. Do it. and they'll explain the laws. And if you can afford it and you have the time, do the tactical stuff, defensive handgun, defensive carbine, never hurts. Now, feral hogs in Texas, they're a bunch of jerks. And coyotes out here, we've had coyotes eating people's dogs. I shouldn't laugh. That's terrible. But people they don't manage their animals. And it's like the same little dog comes out and poops the yard. Maybe someone hid the dog. I don't know. But there are a couple of little dogs been running around and kind of pooping and peeing everywhere. And the neighbors go on Facebook and say, collect your dog, please. And all of a sudden I saw in the mailbox on the lamppost, Rex has been missing, and you see the stupid picture of the dog. And I'm like, if he got over the big fence of the subdivision, the coyotes got him, and they're sitting there chewing on his bones right now. So, hey, D9, thank you. It was great to see you again. Thank you so much for stopping by. You guys be safe out there in your part of Texas. But feral hogs are year-round hunt, George, just to throw that out there. You do need permission from the ranch owner, or you have to be in the hunting season if you're going on public lands. Some of the ranchers have designated hog hunts and they charge you for it. There's some ranchers are overrun with the damn things, and they might let a few folks just go out there and plink them, and they may ask you to simply drag the carcass to a certain area where they will burn it later to be done with it. You may have to do a little homework, but yeah, the hogs, and with all the rain we got, I'm expecting this fall is going to be prolific with critters. Javelinas are out here. Javelinas are restricted now. You can't go plink them as much as you used to, except for javelina season. But in the meantime, guys, I can't emphasize this enough. Be sure your supply chain prep, your economic prep. And that doesn't mean have $1 million per se, but save those bucks where you can. Buy the bulk stuff at Sam's, Costco. If you don't want to buy the whole thing because you think it's too much for you, get some folks to jump in and split it. And also, George, a side note, Louisiana is supposed to be opening hunting season a little early because they had no hunting season really last year, and they're overrun with whitetails and some other stuff. So you may want to check both states, and at least bring a 270 or a 30-06 for those long shots. I've seen guys go out with something that was a little underpowered for a big animal, and they shot it and pissed it off, and it ran them up a tree. So, which is always a good story. Make sure you get those financial preps going. Try to save money. Again, leverage your power as a buyer and try to find new suppliers. Get creative, not just on the web. Talk to people. 30-06. It's been around since 1906 is when they named that round. So yeah, that does the job for a hell of a lot of stuff. Zombies to pigs. You're golden. But get those financial preps ready and try to find where you can save money. Do the couponing thing if you can. Buy in bulk. And actually, tomorrow morning, I'm going to post a short on my Wednesday Wisdom on YouTube of some deals I found here. And like HEB is notorious for doing a combo local or a meal deal, depending on what day of the week it is. And you buy a pack of hamburgers and you get free buns, free cheese, free French fries, free this, free that. And it's like this big old thing of coupons. And all you pay for is this. Get that stuff. And if you're not going to use it, freeze it, food saver it, mason jar it, put it in a vacuum, whatever. Look for those deals. Just because you're not going to make it now. I found taco shells the other day. They're normally like $2.50 for those super stuffer ones, $1 a piece if you buy 5. I'm like, and I looked at the shelf life and it's almost a year. And I'm like, I'll definitely go through one of these a month at least. So done. Solution. But try to leverage those preps. I'm going to try and do a few more short videos on how to save the money, because I think as the prices go up and the supplies are struggling to catch up with the demand, those prices are going to spike. Remember the supply demand curve, demand goes up, supply goes down, and where they intersect, you're going to have that increased price. So take advantage of it. If you see something on sale, make sure it isn't expired and jump on it if you can. Store it, share it with others, even if it's a trade item. Try and leverage that. Yeah, buy it cheap and stack it deep. That's a really good quote. Take advantage of that kind of stuff. There are a lot of folks. I think Papa Prepper almost every Saturday, him and his wife do Saturday savings coupon day or something like that. On my Wednesday wisdoms, I'll do things like how to save money, how to take care of your vehicle, little things, because you get a flat tire or you get bad efficiency or you get a ticket because your damn headlight went out. That's not financial prepping. So keep that in mind, because other people aren't thinking about this. Remember, we're really in the minority as far as people who are thinking ahead about problems. So you get into these kind of situations, the whole world's going to flip out. When Rona hit, they shut down the night President Trump declared an emergency. My wife and I were watching because we knew it was coming. And he said, declare an emergency. And she's like, let's take some extra money out of the bank. Went to Chase, put the card in, and it said, this ATM is not giving cash. 3 ATMs within an hour of the president making that announcement would not give cash from 3 different banks. We finally got smart. We went to Target and bought like a 12-pack of soda and got cash out. And then we went to Walmart and bought something there and got more cash out. And then the next morning, the ATMs became normal again. I thought that was really weird that all the banks, from major banks, all stopped distributing money within an hour of the president's announcement. Yeah, it's all online, guys. And God forbid they start hacking the banks real bad, that'll be a mess. So have a little cash, save the money where you can. I know some folks will save the money, whatever their change goes in a bucket or a bin, and that's the emergency cash. So whatever tricks you got, run with them. Save that money, leverage yourself as a buyer, find new suppliers, find alternate goods. If you can find something that does the same thing cheaper and it's of decent quality, run with it. It may not be the Cadillac of what you're getting, but it'll be worth doing. Because if, I don't know, the Rona takes a turn and it becomes like the damn Black Plague, or we get into a shooting war with someone, I mean, whatever happens, they hack the universe, you'll at least be able to stay off the streets for a couple of weeks. When everyone was fighting over toilet paper, I was there looking for like sweetener for my coffee. Like, I wasn't stressed because we had enough. We knew we're good for a while. We're good for a long while. And I gave my kids the heads up on the freeze, and my daughter stocked up with her little circle of friends, and they did really good. There's a lot of young people in their 20s, and they were all in apartments together, and they were trading stuff, and they hunkered down, and they did great. I was super proud of them. So share the knowledge, especially with the younger crowd. Because a lot of them saw this was very traumatic. There's lessons to be learned here, but again, prep in advance, save the money, buy in bulk, spread out if you can. If you could buy something and do it in payments and not pay interest, and you think you can pay it off before the interest hits, use someone else's money to buy the product and then pay them off. So little tricks like that, guys. I can't say this enough. If we see inflation spikes, fuel's going up, markets are tight, supply chains are screwed up, we're going to struggle with this. But there are things we can do as a community and as preppers individually to kind of buffer that hit. So do that and take that time. Do some research, do some reading. My email is on my page, theroamingprepper@gmail.com. I hope I said that right. You have a specific question, or Instagram, you're like, hey, where do I find this? And why is it so much? If I don't know, we can even broadcast the question to the larger preparedness community. I'm even getting emails from Argentina, from Ecuador, people reaching out to me from South America because I'll do some Spanish stuff. I'll do broadcasts in Spanish, and these guys will jump on, and they didn't even know we had a pipeline hack. We were 4 days into the hack, and I did a Spanish broadcast, and I started getting messages on Instagram saying, we had no idea. We don't hear about your stuff down here. That's going to affect us because you guys are screwed up. Now we can't import because, we can't export because, so it's going to hurt us down here. So we're all tied together. So yeah, do those things and take that time to learn all those little tricks. Do some research. Take an hour a week and just learn what the prices do, where you can find a new good. If something's getting out of your price range, take a half hour, an hour, and research where else can I find this. Out here in Texas, we got a lot of farmers markets. I've made friends with local farmers. I got places I can go right now. I have to give them a call, or I'd show up and say, hey, I'd like this pork or this bacon or this plant product. And I'll come back a week later with some cash and ta-da, I got it. So take the supply chain out of the equation. Make your own supply chain if you can. Guys, I'm going to have to skedaddle. I got to make a work call real quick because somebody decided it would be fun to work late. For those of you who are on the road or planning to be on the road, Godspeed to all of you and yours. To the rest of you, God bless. Be safe. Take care of yourselves and help someone out if you can. And pay attention to what's going on. A lot of moving parts, but we can handle this. We kind of know what we're doing. Trade some notes. The info's out there. You guys take care and God bless. Thanks for stopping by tonight.